Welcome back to Music Theory Logic. My name's Andrew, and today I thought it'd be fun to try to write a chord progression with a little bit more complexity, something that you might find in jazz music. I want to make this relatable to modern music listeners, so we're going to try to write a chord progression and a simple beat in the general genre of lo-fi hip-hop. Let's go ahead into the Logic session. So here we are in a default Logic Pro session. Most of these DAWs start at 120 beats per minute. As a default, we can write at 120 and then find a tempo that works for us. So one of the things to understand about writing chord progressions that are more complex is one of the things that's going to make them sound complex is using chords that are unexpected. Chords that are not found in our key are a lot more unexpected. So let's start with something really basic, and I'll try to give you a simple version of this. We'll be in a major key. We'll just write in C major to start. If I write in a 1, 5, 6, 4, so that's a C major, G major, A minor, F major. Now again, if you're already kind of losing this, I encourage you to get my text linked below or go watch one of my breakdowns on full chords and scales. But in essence, the key that we're using, C major, has all the white notes from C to C. All of these chords are built on the scale degrees. So C is 1, G, what I call a 5 chord, is C, D, E, F, G, the 5th note from the scale, A, which is the 6. It's one further, F, that's the 4 chord. So all of these notes are only white keys. All right, if you play this, it doesn't necessarily sound bad, but you've heard this in tons and tons of songs. Nice. With this instrument I'm using, I could easily go down an octave. To C. So songs that have literally this chord progression, Let It Be by the Beatles, No Woman No Cry, Bob Marley, lots and lots of songs. You should check out, I've said this before on the channel, but check out Axis of Awesome. It's a comedy band, but they're brilliant musicians, and they have the 4 chord song, and they basically combined all of these 4 chord songs into one mashup, which is incredible, and they do it live really well. So let's add the simplest chord we could. We're going to start adding secondary dominants. So what that means is adding a chord that's dominant before. So like for instance, let's make this G major, the second half, and we could do a 5 of 5. What that means is what's the 5th chord if we're in the key of G major? Turns out it is a D major chord. Now because this chord has a black key, that F sharp, it's going to be a little bit more unexpected. It's going to add some complexity to the chord progression. Now, this might sound random, but we could perhaps do a 5-1 here. Now, the 5 of F happens to be a C, so we could do a C, but why don't we make it a C7 chord, a C dominant 7th? So that's going to be, we could walk it down to the progression. We're going to have a B flat as well, and that all together now it sounds like this. So that will work. Again, we could do a lot to make the phrasing or the rhythms sound good. We could also slow this down. Lo-fi, let's try like 102. We could change our timing. So let's go a little bit early, some syncopation. Cool. So we could just keep going and adding other secondary chords that aren't. So A minor has the same notes as C major, so it's not going to give us that. We're going sort of in the key of F major right here. So I could do a 4 chord. That would be a B flat major, This is going to sound pretty jarring. All right. Cool. So that's one way that you could create a progression. Let me show you a different one. So in jazz music, there's a lot of sort of sequences. That a sequence is a pattern. A sequence in music is a pattern of notes. And in jazz music, we have sequence of chord sequences. So what that means is, let's say I do a 1 1 4 5, so C major, F major to G, let's make sure we mute our other channel. All right, we have this. All right, so that's a 1 4 5 progression. Now we could follow the circle of fifths. So in essence, we could do it in G. Change the. And then we could take all of this and copy it to the next note from the circle of fifths. That would be a D. Then if we wanted to go further, it'd be an A. So altogether, that's basically going to create transposition. So the music keeps changing keys. A jazz progression you could look to is Giant Steps, Coltrane. It basically does a similar like 1-5 motion, and then that moves through circle of fifths. So here we go. All right, so that on its own doesn't really sound that great, but let's change the instrument. Let's just use a default Logic pad. How about Fireflies? Nice. Let's duplicate that. Let's add some sort of Let's add a pluck. Let's arpeggiate the pluck. Do something like eighth notes. All right, we're getting there. Let's just phone it home with some hip-hop drums. We're going to make this, let's go with something a little bit mellow. All right, unfortunately, I don't really like any of those. It's hard since we're using that quarter note triplet. Let's write some drums in. So I'll use default Logic drum machine. Let's use a 909. All right, now for some simple drum vocabulary, we're going to use a backbeat. We're going to use some syncopation. So I'm going to put the kick on 1 every other measure. Snare on 3. to standard. All right, so here's where we're going to put the triplets in. So first of all, quarter note triplets mean we're getting 3 in the space of 2 quarter notes. So that's we can add some more exciting rhythms in there. All right, cool. All right, cool. So now for the lo-fi element. We're going to want to make this sound like it's sampled. So one thing we could do is just filter it. Let's just talk about this one for now. If I move my EQ to the end, turn it on. So in essence, tape, for one thing, has a slightly lower range. We're going to then add, let's try to do this default. Let's do some clip distortion. All right, finally, let's add some tape delay. All right, let's play around with our arpeggio. Let's go to eighth note triplets. All right, so not the best thing I've ever made, but hopefully that gave you a lot more insight on writing chord progressions that aren't just in one key. Let me finish off trying one more. So the final way you could think about writing out a key is just going chord by chord. Now, this is going to be a lot of guess and check unless you're familiar with a bunch of different keys and how different chords can relate. So let's use just some chords. Let's use a major seventh. To an A major 7. so then we basically have created a 4-chord progression, but it sounds like really jazzy. It's almost instantly sounds Kendrick Lamar-ish. Let's try putting that on a brass sound. So let's go with full brass. Then we're going to use a plugin that doesn't come with Logic, but if you have Serum, I think LFO Tool comes with Serum. It might be an additional purchase, but it's super worth it. So we're going to use this to make it flutter a little bit on a slower rhythm. Let's go like with the bar. Let's put that all through some reverb. Now, one thing that can be really hard when you have a chord progression like this is writing a melody. Now, the easiest way to think about writing a melody over a chord progression that doesn't stick to one key is to think chord by chord. In essence, if I'm over a C major 7, I could definitely use any of the notes we're already playing, right? So I could create a melody doing that. So it's a C major 7, A major 7, an F sharp minor chord, and then a C sharp major 7, which again is, or a C sharp, G sharp. Yeah, so like a C sharp dominant 7th at the end. So let's stick those to a melody. You can use a brass instrument as well. Let's go. Cool. And that basic way we would write a melody over the other chords that aren't in one key would be the same sort of idea. So it's almost like we're in C major, and then this G sharp, that's out of key. That kind of foreshadows our, or it's in our key of the chord, but it's not in the key to start. Awesome. Let's take off the LFO tool. All right, I'm happier with that one. So let's call it there. So hopefully you found that helpful. Again, writing music isn't a hard science, but it's certainly fun. And remember to keep it fun. There are no real rules. There are just ways for us to understand what those of us before us have done. And the sound of music is really like this spoken language that everyone who is involved in writing music is kind of picking up where people that we liked making music left it off. So all of these rules, they're not really rules, but they're just the way sound works together. And I hope it really helped. Writing more complicated chords is weird to think about, but it's a lot easier to do on the computer than actually playing on an instrument. So try adding a chord that doesn't necessarily make sense, and it's going to add a more complex flavor to your music. I hope that helped. If that helped, you would help me out a ton by subscribing to the channel. If you do, I will see you guys next time. Once again, my name's Andrew. Be kind to your fellow human being, and I will see you next time. Cheers.